Good afternoon, everybody. This is Paul Ura. Can I get a verification from somebody that they can hear me and they can see my slide okay? You can do it in the questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Stand by. We'll be starting in about 1 minute. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Paul Ura with the Austin San Antonio National Weather Service Office. I'm the warning coordination meteorologist. You're joining us today with our 2 p.m. Wednesday, January 8th winter weather webinar. Some important updates that we had is that we've just issued a winter weather advisory for portions of the Hill Country and the southern Edwards Plateau, basically areas in our far western areas of our jurisdiction. We are expecting those possible impacts mainly confined to the Hill Country and to the southern Edwards Plateau. The next briefing will be at 2 p.m. tomorrow. This webinar is being recorded. The slides will be emailed out to not only our partners list, but also everybody that is registered for this. And just a little bit of logistics is that if you do have any questions, please put them in the questions feature. I will get to them at the end of the briefing. So with that, let's get started. The main points for today, of course, is that winter weather advisory that we have issued for the Hill Country and southern Edwards Plateau. I'll show you a graphic here in a second. It is in effect from 6 a.m. tomorrow morning all the way through 6 a.m. on Friday. Precipitation will likely begin pre-dawn Thursday morning out west. When I say out west, primarily I'm talking about the Rio Grande area, so Valverde County, Maverick County, kind of spreading in likely from that direction. That precipitation will likely continue all day, kind of peaking in the afternoon and evening hours, we think, and then lasting all the way through the overnight hours, exiting basically west to east. And so by early morning, Friday morning, most everybody should be out of the precipitation. The Hill Country and Edwards Plateau is the most favorite area to see any sort of snow and ice, mainly trace amounts up to about 1/10 of an inch of accumulation, with all precipitation modes, freezing rain, sleet, and snow technically possible. With that, and with the temperatures kind of hovering around the freezing mark, we are expecting, as of right now, only minor travel impacts to mainly bridges. Also, ice accumulation possible on elevated surfaces, maybe some spotty slick spots on some of the main roads, or some of the less traveled roads, I guess I'll say. There is a high confidence that much of the area will actually see just a very cold rain, including much of the I-35 corridor and areas to the south and east. Possibly, as we've kind of seen before, in the higher terrain areas just west of 35, so western areas of Travis County, Williamson County, Hayes County, Comal County, Bexar County, could get some possible spotty icing up there. We'll really have to just kind of see how the temperatures play out tomorrow. Rainfall totals could exceed 1 to 2 inches, so very welcome rain across much of the area, especially along and east of Interstate 35. And a hard freeze is expected back onto the docket here Friday night, early Saturday morning. I'll show you a graphic of that. So here are 1 p.m. conditions. Still cold across the entire region. The good news about this right now, and this is what's different about some of the other big icing events we've had in the past, is that there's no massive surge of cold air that's approaching tonight. So when the precipitation starts late tonight into tomorrow morning and all day tomorrow, it's basically the air mass that's been sitting on top of us over the last several days. So as we kind of explained yesterday, that will lead to a modification, or it's kind of a change and a warming of the atmosphere and of the surface temperature. So that's why we think we're going to be staying away from a any sort of horrific sort of ice storm, but just maybe some spotty ice, especially out there in the hill country. There's a water vapor imagery that kind of shows where that low pressure area is. It's kind of south of California and Arizona over Baja, and all those kind of white, milky white colors that you see kind of spreading up from the southwest is all the upper level and mid-level moisture that's kind of coming our way. That's why it's cloudy today. All that moisture is starting to spread in as that low pressure area will be approaching again tonight, and then all day tomorrow, and then finally kind of exiting on Friday. So this is the winter weather advisory that we have just issued. It is in effect from, again, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning all the way through 6 a.m. on Friday. So you can see the hill country counties. It does not include Austin Metro. It does not include San Antonio Metro. It does include, like I said, the hill country counties as well as the southern Edwards Plateau. So from Del Rio to Rock Springs, Kerrville, Fredericksburg, and Llano, Burnett, Johnson City, Boerne, right, Bandera, all those cities are technically under the winter weather advisory. So minor travel issues, possibly some sleet. We'll really watch the road reports tomorrow closely because as with any sort of advisory, especially this winter weather advisory, we do have some criteria that we tend to use as a guide on when to issue these products. And you can kind of see those criteria on the screen there. But we're going to be expecting ice amounts and sleet amounts less than that, or kind of in this sort of range. So we are able to kind of upgrade the winter weather advisory into a different product, especially into a winter storm warning if need be tomorrow. If we do get enough reports of significant icing or significant road impacts or traffic accidents and everything else, we can make that decision on whether or not we stick with the weather advisory, the winter weather advisory, or we would maybe have to upgrade to a winter storm warning. We don't anticipate that right now, but those reports that you can funnel in through us, either through our email or through our NWS chat account, or by calling us, can be very, very helpful tomorrow for us to make those decisions. So please, any sort of reports that you have of any of icing or road conditions, please pass those along to us. This is kind of showing the most likely ice accumulation and the amounts that we're expecting. So again, out in the hill country into that winter weather advisory area, up to 1/10 of an inch. I will tell you that there are a few of the short range models that are showing more than this. So we would give it only about a 20% chance that any sort of total would be getting up to that 1/4 inch of ice. So as of right now, those are kind of outlier models, but they are there and we can't discount them at this point. So there are technically some scenarios out there where we do get more ice than this. So we'll just, again, have to watch it closely tomorrow. I've been showing these graphs, the graphics these last couple of days showing the chances of minor winter storm impacts. I kept the same time frames as we did yesterday, just so you can compare. Once again, these chances have lowered, especially by 6 a.m. Thursday morning across much of the area. As we get into 6 p.m. on Thursday tomorrow, again, overall, low likelihoods and low chances of having any sort of impacts across the area. And then I did include now a 12 a.m. Friday morning graphic that, again, still shows anywhere basically less than a 50% chance of having some minor impacts across the hill country getting into the I-35 corridor. So again, as of right now, we are expecting, just again, mainly cold rain everywhere, except for maybe the hill country where some of that ice is still a possibility. But again, overall, those chances are low. They are. And then finally, wanted to show you the one graphic that shows the moderate impact, or the chances of moderate impacts. These numbers are actually lower than yesterday. So again, still kind of bodes well with our initial thinking here that a lot of areas will just be getting cold rain, and the overall ice impacts, if they do occur, would be confined out to our hill country and the highest of terrain, where the temperatures will likely be hovering right around freezing. This is more data and more guidance from our WPC up in Washington, D.C. Uses ensemble models to kind of put it all together for us. Again, these are chances of getting greater than a 1/10 of an inch of ice. I wanted to highlight with that circled area there, the Austin-San Antonio corridor, where it's literally 5% or less of getting that sort of likelihood. And again, kind of where we have the advisory out right now, the highest chances for us are out in that hill country And I did highlight there where Kerrville is and Llano is, just so you have an idea that that is still in that, less than 50% chance of getting some ice to be accumulating greater than 1/10 of an inch. So here's the expected rainfall map that kind of shows the 1 to 2 inches of rain across much of the area, much needed rainfall. We're still in drought conditions across much of the area. So this will be very, very welcome. I will say that if we do get that much rainfall, it is winter time. So some ponding on roadways would be possible, but we don't anticipate any sort of significant flooding with any of the rainfall that we're expecting over the next 36 hours. A brief overview of the temperatures, low temperature maps on the left, the high temperature maps on the right. This is for Thursday. You can see tomorrow, low temperatures this morning. The cloud cover kind of kept a lot of the areas above freezing this morning. And so that'll be the case for the most part tomorrow morning as well, except for the hill country, where they're kind of hovering just above freezing right now. So they only have to drop a few degrees. So again, that's where the largest threat is for getting at least some sort of spotty ice or minor ice accumulation. High temperatures tomorrow on the right. You can see 30s and 40s across much of the region. For Friday, as the storm system is exiting, again, Friday morning, you can see 30s across the region. And then again, areas where it's still probably cloudy out in the hill country, kind of remaining in the 30s or at least upper 30s, and elsewhere probably warming up on Friday into the 40s, maybe even some lower 50s across the far south. And this is the highlighted low temperatures, minimum temperatures for Saturday morning. I am showing basically a hard freeze everywhere. So you're talking about low 20s out in the hill country to basically mid 20s elsewhere. So be aware of that the temperatures will get rather cold behind the system as it exits, but that'll be Saturday morning. Again, highlighting our forecast points webpage. These are new screen captures from New Braunfels today. And as we get through the temperature kind of flat line, if you will, over the next couple of days, there is going to be some brief warm up into the weekend, but then early next week, another pretty decent surge of cold air comes in. We're not expecting any precipitation as of right now, but high temperatures basically in the 40s for a lot of the different areas in South Central Texas early next week. So don't put away the coats and sweaters yet. Of course, pay attention to drivetexas.org. I'll be going on here very frequently tomorrow to kind of see what the road conditions are like. Again, especially if people are traveling north into parts of North Texas or West Texas and even Northeast Texas now, still the possibility of getting some ice and some snow up there, so travel will be impacted. Here's the website for the winter preparedness graphics that we've been kind of showing. We've been showing that on social media, and of course you guys can use these graphics as well to share across your domains and your social media platforms as well. So wrapping it up, these are the main points again from the second slide. So again, the winter weather advisory is out. Again, the hill country and Edwards Plateau area is the most favored area of getting some sort of ice accumulation. It's going to be tough, and it's going to be really, really hard to determine where exactly some of that ice may form. This is a borderline situation, especially with the temperatures that we're dealing with, where they're hovering right around freezing. So the good news right now is that we don't see a lot of temperatures in the 20s anywhere, and that's typically where we have some of our larger ice storms. So we do again think this is going to be overall a fairly minor, impactful sort of storm, even out in the hill country where we may actually see some ice. So again, the high confidence for the very cold rain everywhere, and again the hard freeze for Friday night and early Saturday morning. So the next briefing will be this time again, 2 p.m. tomorrow on Thursday. We'll again record it, and again we'll send out the slides. And what we'll do is we'll just be watching the weather closely tomorrow. Again, getting those reports on social media or from storm spotters, hopefully, that if there is any ice, we'll kind of know about it, and we'll kind of be able to make some decisions on whether or not we have to expand the advisories or we have to go up to a different type of product. But a lot of it will depend on what kind of intel we're getting from ground level. So with that, I am going to be starting to look at some of these questions that have come in, so stand by. So question about when will the rain begin, reach its peak, and end in San Antonio area? So for the most part, we do think by Some models are showing some scattered little showers and stuff coming in already by rush hour in the morning. So overall, the time frame is expect that you could get some wet roads already by morning time in San Antonio. The peak of it should probably be in afternoon and evening, where the most precipitation is happening, the heaviest precipitation, I guess. And then past midnight, everything should be on its way out to the east. So not knowing exactly what hour, but it'd probably be a little bit after midnight, most likely, when everything, I bet, should clear the San Antonio area. And if snow flurries are still possible as the storm exits town, any idea what approximate time flurries might fall over San Antonio or areas nearby? No, it would probably be later in the event, most likely. So it would be probably in the evening time, tomorrow evening, or overnight. That's my best guess right now, if that would actually occur. And that possibility is very, very low. How much drying do you anticipate before we drop below freezing on Friday night? Good question. Because it's going to get rather breezy behind the system on Friday, we think that most roads should be able to dry out fine by Saturday morning when everything kind of drops down below freezing. I would say that if there's going to be areas, less traveled roads that have large puddles on the side of the road, that kind of thing, of course, yes, you could get some cars that kind of hit those puddles and spread some water on the road, and maybe you could have some slick spots. But in most well-traveled roads, I think we would dry out fine. But just honestly, just kind of be aware of that, as that technically is a possibility. It all depends, honestly, on how much rain happens and where it happens tomorrow. Are we expecting freezing precipitation in San Antonio? As of right now, travel time in the morning, no, we are not expecting freezing precipitation in San Antonio. You could get precipitation, and even if we do get some frozen precipitation, we actually had a little bit of sleet this morning and some snow flurries around New Braunfels as some little wave kind of came through, but it should be above freezing, that even if that is falling, while it may get people excited to see it, and to worry about it, if it's above freezing on the ground, it probably would not be sticking. So not out of the question that you couldn't see a little bit of a few sleet pellets tomorrow morning somewhere, but for the most part, the temperature should be above freezing, that we should not have to worry about it too much. Similar question about rain over Travis County. Right, so as far as when it would start, morning time. Like I said, we weren't really expecting these little flurry things that came through this morning. So my confidence in exact timing is not very high. So I will say, we could start to see some sort of precipitation as early as the morning commute, if that makes any sense. And then peaking again, afternoon hours and evening hours, I think, is where most of the models have been showing a lot of the precipitation kind of maxing out, and then finally kind of pushing east of the area late evening into the overnight hours. Should school districts in the northern part of Austin monitor weather on Thursday night for a delayed start? I can't make decisions on delaying starts or anything else. I will tell you that, of course, the monitoring the weather is very, very important, especially during these sort of events, to look at the temperatures and to see if the models are wrong. To be honest, the models can be wrong, and so yes, there could be some issues potentially on Friday morning. As of right now, it doesn't look that way, but we still have quite a bit of time between now and Friday morning for things to change in the atmosphere. So yes, monitor the weather closely all day tomorrow and into the evening. We'll probably hopefully know a little bit more on this briefing tomorrow to give you some sort of better guidance on what may happen on Friday. Same sort of question about will it be drying out in time for Saturday morning? Most likely, most areas, the road should be dry, especially with the breezy conditions that happen on Friday. So we don't anticipate a lot of problems on Saturday morning with those freezing temperatures. Like I said, it's not unheard of that you can't have an area that had some big puddles because of poor drainage, and some of that water gets spread along a road or something. But that's beyond beyond my expertise. And if you know of some low spots in your city or county that typically happens, I guess that's where you would need to kind of watch closely. Someone asking about when would be a good time to check in the morning to see if school needs to delay start. I'm assuming you're kind of talking about tomorrow morning. Of course, we're here 24 hours, so you should have our phone number The phone number is actually up on the screen right now. You can call that phone number if you need some guidance, and we'll give you our best guess on precipitation and the temperatures. And but as you kind of know, road conditions are kind of out of our wheelhouse. We don't know exactly how bad the road conditions are. That's where a lot of the boots on the ground out there, TxDOT in particularly, can maybe help to see if anything is happening ice-wise on the roads. So you can contact us for the weather portion and probably get some better intel from locals as far as what the road conditions actually may be, especially tomorrow morning out in the hill country. What is your confidence level that Burnett County might receive glazing on roads? Our confidence is high enough, at least that's why the advisory came out. So whether or not that's a glazing on roads or whether or not that's just on bridges, I think your bridges, are going to have a higher likelihood of possibly seeing some glaze or having some slick spots like normal. Now, whether or not, like I said, a lot of it will depend on what the temperatures are doing. And if we can hover around freezing, like I think the models are showing and what our official forecast is, we should avoid any sort of major road issues, because the more it rains, especially when it's right around 32 degrees, that actually helps to warm the atmosphere just a bit. Now, if the temperatures start to nosedive unexpectedly into the 20s, that's when we would have to be very, very cautious and really maybe kind of watch it even closer. But as of right now, we're not expecting that. So decent confidence right now that we're not going to see widespread road issues across Burnett County. But could we get some road issues? Sure, that's why we have the advisory out, and that's why we'll be watching it closely. Would you recommend that any meetings or events after school be canceled due to rainy or very cold weather? That'll be y'all's decision. We're the ones that provide the forecast data, and we'll tell you what the chances are for rain and the chances for ice and the temperatures, but that'll have to be under your recommendations on whether or not or what you do with that forecast information. It's definitely going to be cold, but not knowing every particular or every sort of kind of guidance that you kind of usually go with, I'll just kind of leave it at that. Will Slack be active and with more real-time information as typical? I would say yes. So I will be coming into the office tomorrow. Tomorrow's actually get turned into a federal holiday. So, but we're still going to be staffing up for our event tomorrow. So I'll be in the office, and we'll have a couple of extra people here that I'll be sure to kind of start pushing some intel, especially as stuff starts to fall, on through Slack, and keep everybody updated as best we can there. That's where I also will hope that our partners on Slack and our NWS chat account will be able to go ahead and give us feedback and give us reports from out in the field, because we will be in dire need of that sort of information if we're going to be making any sort of other decisions tomorrow. If roads freeze to 1/10 of an inch level, when might they expect to thaw in this forecast? Hard thing to guess on that, because typically we wouldn't have that much ice accumulated on the actual road itself. That may be accumulating more on the elevated surfaces, those metal objects, the signs, tree branches, that kind of a thing. But just knowing how cold it has to be for that sort of ice to accumulate on a road itself, we're not at those temperatures. So I would be very surprised if we would have any sort of accumulation of that much on an actual road surface. But let's say it does. Let's go with your scenario. It could take at least a day. At least my guess is, I'm not a road expert, but it also depends. Do we get sunshine? Is it a well-traveled road? The wind will actually help to evaporate some of the ice on Friday. So a little bit hard to answer, but it definitely won't just go away instantly. But again, not really high confident that we would get that much accumulation on actual roads. A lot of what the weather advisory is showing is that a lot of those are mainly elevated surfaces and the bridges themselves. So as long as the bridges are treated, people use caution, drive slower than they're supposed to. Hopefully we'll get through tomorrow without many issues. And that is the end of the questions as I see fit. I'll give you about 20 more seconds or so as I kind of wrap it up. Again, as soon as this is done, I'm going to be processing the recording, getting it on a YouTube link, I've been sending out the slides to everybody, so hopefully by 3 o'clock you'll have the recording and you'll have the slides if you want to share those slides out to anybody else. So with that, stay warm. We'll see you here tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Hopefully we'll have a much better idea of what's not only ongoing already, but maybe how bad it won't get for the rest of the day tomorrow as we do our webinar tomorrow at 2 p.m. So with that, thank you for attending, and we will see you guys tomorrow.